Dallas the Science Diva here, asking you to pause for a moment of science. How have you been? How's your summer been going? I really am excited to share with you some things that I found on my last trip to the beach. Most of you know I love going to the beach, and during the summertime, I feel like all science classes should take place at the beach. There's always so much to learn. So I want to share with you what I collected from the bay the last time I was there a couple of days ago. I've had these items sitting here thinking to myself, what do I talk about first? What is most exciting? So I want to just show you first what I picked up out of the bay at Sandy Hook. I obviously found some seaweed. I also found a seed. I believe this is a water chestnut seed from a tree in the bay. Very protective seed coat, wouldn't you say? But the best part of my findings comes in the form of a horseshoe crab molt. Take a look. A horseshoe crab molt. Now I want to show you what I learned about this, because if perhaps you happen to go to the beach, you happen to go to the bayside, depending on the beach you go to, and you find in that shallow water something that looks like a horseshoe crab, but it's very light in color, guess what? This isn't the horseshoe crab, but can you take a guess what it might be? It's the horseshoe crab's molt. I'm thinking, oh my Lord, I found a horseshoe crab, a baby horseshoe crab that died. No, this is the horseshoe crab molt. So let me tell you a little about horseshoe crabs, because they are amazing. A lot of times scientists call them living fossils because they're older than the dinosaurs. They're amazing animals that, although they're called horseshoe crabs, they're more related to a spider than to a crab. They are shaped like that horseshoe right there, that horseshoe shape. And a lot of times they're much bigger and darker. But in order for them to grow, they have to molt. That means they have to get rid of their old exoskeleton, their old shell, and fill up their new shell with water, pretty much. So let me just show you the place where it molted. So I can show you how this is a molt. See this little piece right here? This is where the horseshoe crab crawled out of. Right? So when the horseshoe crab's body was filled up with water enough, it was able to split like this out of its old shell and crawl into a new one. What's unique about horseshoe crabs is they take about 10 years to reach maturity. And then after they're mature, they no longer have a need to molt. But the only way for them to molt is to get rid of their old shell. All right, so let me show you a little bit about the horseshoe crab, because although this isn't the actual animal itself, it's just the exoskeleton, their molt is so precise that you can make out quite a bit. Now, if you were to ever see a horseshoe crab in the bay, or if you ever to see a horseshoe crab anywhere, don't worry, they are completely harmless. This tail that they have here is used just to flip themselves back over if they need to. It doesn't have any venom in it and it does not hurt you. It's actually just designed to be able to flip the horseshoe crab back over if it needs to. So if you ever see a horseshoe crab, never grab it by its tail. But if you want to take a look at it, you can lift it up by the sides of that horseshoe like that. That's usually how I pick them up. And then when you look underneath, you can see that in the very center, that's the horseshoe crab's mouth. Right here are the book gills. It's kind of hard to see on my camera, but here are the book gills. They basically look like pages in a book, but they are actually what allow the horseshoe crab to get gas out of the water. Its mouth is in the center, and then they have a few little appendages here that help them to push food into their mouth. But what's really special about horseshoe crabs is they have really good eyesight. They have about 9 eyes on the top of their body, and they have some sensory type eye function close to their tail. But they have amazing eyesight, and they are a really important part of the marine ecosystem and have been here successfully for a very long time. So I just wanted to show you my horseshoe crab molt. I think it's amazing. I got to find a way to preserve it in a jar, because I mean, I've never come across the molt before. I usually come across either a dead shell, a dead horseshoe crab and just its shell, but never the molt. Isn't that amazing? I actually have another one here. Show you another one that's really small. This one was a really tiny baby horseshoe crab. See? Oop. Here it is. Can you see it? Yeah, so these were a couple items that I found when I was in the bay the other day, and I wanted to share with you because this is the season, especially if you live here in the Northeast. We do a lot of beach time. So if you are walking along the beach looking for your seashells and you come across what looks like a clear, almost translucent type crab, it's most likely just the molt, the exoskeleton that the crab left behind while it's growing. You see, horseshoe crabs, they lay tons of eggs because their survival rate is really low. And most of their eggs are important for feeding the ecosystem and feeding the shorebirds in the area. But those eggs that do survive, they have to constantly go through quite a few molts in the first 10 years of their life before they are adults and can mate for themselves. So I thought this was kind of cool. And look, this molt, like, do you see how there's like sand caught in the tail? It's really literally the outside exoskeleton of the horseshoe crab. So I'm gonna see if I can rinse that out a little bit, get that sand out so that you could probably see better the parts of the crab. So yep, this is the horseshoe crab. It's really closely related to spiders. So my tarantula up there and this horseshoe crab have more in common than the common crab that we might eat. But it is called a horseshoe crab because it is something crawling on the ground with an exoskeleton. But like I said before, it's more closely related to spiders. This horseshoe crab is a living fossil. So if you go to the beach and you happen to see one, be very careful. Let it do its thing. If you want to take a look at it, hold it by the sides if you would like, but never by the tail. But more importantly, look for signs that the horseshoe crab is there thriving. And one sign is their molt. Yep, one sign is their molt. So I just wanted to pause for a moment of science with you and show you this molt that this horseshoe crab crawled out of. I'm really excited. I want to see if I can find a way to preserve it. And I hope that as you go and walk on the beach the next time you go, that you also too pick up a few items to research later. Because remember, school is out, summer's here, but science is always open, and it's always a great time to pause for a moment of science. So Dallas the Science TV here, thanking you for pausing for this moment of science. Thanking you so much for taking the time to join me for this brief discussion on horseshoe crabs and the very unique way that they grow with molting. That molting, or this molt, is what I'm holding right here. And I hope that you're enjoying your summer, and I hope to see you soon. As I always say, never stop learning, everybody.